Students of MTGO Academy, this is your Pauper Professor Jason Moore, and I would like to welcome you to the latest installment of Do the Do. It's time to do the Mardu. Here at Dime a Dozen, we're going to be playing Mardu mid-range, also known as Mardu Control. It just depends if you consider this a control deck like I do, if you want to call it mid-range instead. I mean, it's basically in some sort of nebulous gray area between the two archetypes. Sometimes you are going to be the control deck in the matchup, and sometimes you're going to be a little more proactive and a little more forceful with your lines of play. Now, this is a deck I started working on back around the initial release and or spoiling of Eternal Masters when Knight's Whisper became a reality in the format. So Knight's Whisper is an easier to cast Sign in Blood, which makes multicolored decks of various varieties. I guess that's a little redundant, but makes various multicolored decks capable of getting a lot of card advantage really easy for a low mana cost. So with this Mardu deck, we're essentially going to be a core Skyfisher deck to help pile on to that card advantage that Knight's Whisper is allowing us. So with core Skyfisher, you want to have a lot of different permanents that are beneficial for you to be bouncing. So we've got a number of creatures that we can bounce with the Skyfisher. We've got 4 Thraben Inspector and 4 Phyrexian Rager, so that's going to be how we get some extra draw going on. We've also got Prophetic Prisms, not only to fix our 3-color mana base, but also to get additional value, additional cycling with the core Skyfisher. And to top it all off, we have the Mortuary Mire, one of the best in terms of more recent targets for core Skyfisher because they synergize together perfectly. Mortuary Mire returns core Skyfisher from your graveyard, and core Skyfisher returns Mortuary Mire from the battlefield. So it's all good. It's all set up for us there. And ultimately, we're just a deck that plays a lot of removal, a lot of draw, and some inevitability win cons to help win in a long, drawn-out game. We can also close the game pretty quickly because we run Gurmag Angler, but we're getting there. Let me try and get my thoughts together here and make this a little more coherent. So the mana base is really spread out, but I think you'll find if you run this list that it's fairly well thought out and it runs pretty smoothly. So we've got 3 Bloodfell Caves, 2 Evolving Wilds there. In terms of duels, we're also running a single Orzhov Basilica and a single Rakdos Carnarium. Those are both in the deck to help us bounce Mortuary Mire around. Our other duels are 2 Scoured Barrens and 2 Terramorphic Expanse. So the deck is skewed slightly towards black, slightly more towards black, and then it's fairly even between white and red, since we need the red early to burn people, and then we need the white early and in high numbers to use core Skyfisher and to bounce Thraben Inspectors, replay them, that kind of thing. And then basics, we've got 5 Swamps, 3 Plains, and 3 Mountains. Let's see. So the removal package is going to be 4 copies of Flame Slash along with 2 Bolts, and then we also have 2 copies of Tragic Slip at 1 mana. Tragic Slip is a card that I think is fairly underplayed. It's got a lot of utility. It hits big things like Gurmag Angler. It hits big things like Ulamog's Crusher. Pairs very well with our other removal that I already mentioned, and then 3 copies of Chainer's Edict, which is a nice 2-for-1 removal spell that also gets big creatures out of there. And the Gurmag Anglers are a great way of closing the game very quickly. You can cast this for as little as a single black mana and then start clocking the opponent very quickly. Our other path to victory, besides just flooding the board with our smaller guys, is to gain a bunch of life with multiple talismans in play, and then also to repeatedly burn the opponent out and sweep their board with Evankar's Justice plus buyback. So you get a couple talismans paired with the Justice. You've got a one-sided, very slow grinding Curse of the Pierced Heart sort of effect going on, and very costly. But towards the end of the game, when each player is depleted of resources, having a repeatable resource that does not deplete is going to be very important. We've also got Grim Harvest, which is a great inevitability spell, and this is a breaker of various matchups because it's another piece of inevitability that ultimately runs your opponent out of guys and out of answers to your threats. You essentially ensure that you're never going to run out of Gurmag Anglers, no matter how many times they get killed. And most people can only kill a Gurmag Angler a couple of times before they're in real trouble. So that's the main deck. The sideboard is a little spread out, but if we need to kill somebody fast, if they're a very non-interactive deck, or they're just a deck that's better at late game than we are, so that would be a lot of decks actually, ranging from Tron to Hexproof to Burn to various real late game control strategies. We've got a third Gurmag Angler to try and be more proactive and close games out faster. For swarming creature strategies, we have a second sweeper in the form of Evankar's Justice. We've got Lone Missionary to also slow down those creature strategies, but also to help us bolster our life gain against Burn, which is a fairly popular two-man queue type of deck. We've got Leave No Trace to fight off Hexproof. We've also got Cop Red, Circle of Protection Red, which is the ultimate hoser against Burn. Can also come in against Nivik Cyclops. If you're in a real bind, you can use this against something like a Tog, but that wouldn't be my first choice, though. If we do run into a Tog, we'll see if we end up changing our tune. Duresses against control strategies or anyone who has a real linchpin card or a reactive card that we need to get out of their hand. Real good against counter magic in particular, things like Capsize and the sky's the limit in terms of non-creature spells there. 3 Pyroblast also going to help us against counter magic. Great at countering big blue spells like Muldrifter. It can kill a Curse of the Bloody Tome if that ever becomes an issue. It can stop Stormbound Geist in just one fell swoop by countering it, that kind of thing. If they're playing a blue creature, usually that creature is going to get some value right when it hits the table, so being able to stop it from hitting the table in the first place, pretty nice. And then 2 copies of Nihil Spellbomb just to wipe out graveyards if they're playing Tortured Existence, if they're playing Exhume, any type of cute, very graveyard-centric strategies like that. Alright guys, it's time to find a new angle on attacking the Pauper metagame, and I hope as we fish around for some success and we delve deeper into the world of Pauper competition, that we don't end up too hungry for human flesh. I mean, let's see how effective we can really get.